Hi folks, this is Chris Voss from thechrisvossshow.com, thechrisvossshow.com. Coming here with another blog post that I'd love to discuss with you. A long time ago, I remember hearing this story from Earl Nightingale. I believe it's on The Strangest Secret. But he tells a story about how a new neighbor moved into his area, and after a few months or a year, he noticed that the new neighbor was moving out of the neighborhood. And so he went over to the gentleman and he said to him, I see you're moving out. I mean, why are you moving out so quickly? And as the story goes, the husband started telling him that his wife was unhappy with the neighborhood and that she basically had an issue where none of the other women had come around and befriended her in the neighborhood and the social circles at that time. And none of the women had made an effort to bring her into their circles and become friends with her. And so she was upset by that and wanted to move out of the neighborhood in some place, I guess, where she was felt more welcome. So what was interesting is Earl Nightingale asked the gentleman, according to the story, he said, well, has she gone out and met anyone? Has she made an effort to try and make friends with these people or their communities, their societies? And the husband says, no, she hasn't. She's actually been waiting for them to come to her. And so here, this person's life was being dictated by their pattern lack of communication. The fact that sometimes you have to actually go out to people to get them to engage you. So hereby is the discussion for this blog post. One thing that's always interested me, and I'm a person who keeps a lot of statistics and patterns. I keep track of things. When you're in business long enough, you start to do that, especially when you get promises from people or employees that I'll do this and I'll do that, and then later you go, you said you do that and you didn't, and they try and change your memory. You get really good at remembering things when people try and adjust your memory. So so one of the things that I always get all the time, it's not all the time, that's probably a generalization. One of the things that I get a lot is whenever I get a DM from someone on social media and it says, look, I'm unfollowing you because you don't engage people, you don't converse with people. Okay? What's very interesting about those people is that, you know what? I sit there and I look at their avatar, and sometimes I'll do searches for a conversation. 99.9% of the time, and I'm saying that because I've never found anybody that did try and have a conversation with me, but 99.9% of the time, those people have never approached me in a conversation. They've never tried to communicate with me in any way, shape, or form. Maybe they RT me, but that's not communication in my mind. So, I have a policy. And I believe my policy and the way I operate is much better than most people, especially because I get paid to be online 24/7, and I am online 24/7. So I make it a point to respond to anyone who talks to me on Twitter, as long as we're having a conversation. If I say hello, good morning, you say hello, good morning, that's the end of the conversation, unless you ask me further questions. This is a very simple format in the English language when it comes to asking questions, probing, conversation, etc. Now, if you retweet something like, from me, to me that's you saying thank you to me for putting out a great tweet. Okay? I'm not going to thank you for retweeting it. Okay? You retweeted it. It helps you be recognized as someone who's smart and retweets really good links. It helps me, of course, too. So thereby we're both well served, and we both have thanked each other. A conversation to me is if you ask me a question, you're talking to me, you want me to look at something, etc., etc. I may ask you a conversation piece where I'm asking you about stuff and interest in you. Certainly I have a whole group of people that are on my list, and they're people that I converse with regularly, etc., etc. But I make it a point, if you are in Africa or Australia or somewhere in another continent that puts you completely, not only in a different time zone, but into a night area, middle of the night instead of a daylight, I make it a point that when I wake up the next morning, I will respond to your tweet if you ask me a question or you're talking to me. I make that a point. And I doubt that few people give it that extra effort. I doubt few people actually go back through their Twitter stream 24 hours and make sure that they talk and reply to everybody. So I'm always offended when people go, oh, you don't engage people, you don't talk to people. Look, I put out tweets. I put out quite a few tweets a daily basis that link to blog posts like this where I pontificate for 5 to 10 minutes. So really, when it comes down to it, I'm tweeting and talking. Really, am I tweeting probably for 24 hours plus a day if you were to measure the times of all my blog posts that I'm putting out on a daily basis. So, I mean, how much more talking would you really like me to do? And the information here is incredibly valuable. So, anyway, it always strikes me as interesting. Those people have never tried to approach me. They've never talked to me. And they're these armchair cowboys that sit in the wings. They're the voyeurs. And of course, Twitter is 73% voyeur. And they just sit there and judge you and go, oh my God, I am watching him and I have not seen him talk to someone or come up with some sort of whatever. You know, I make it a point to reply to everybody. It may take me some time to wake up out of bed or reply to you, or maybe be on some weird schedule with what I'm doing, but I make it a point. In fact, I probably, if we were to measure things, you'd find that I make it a point to reply to people more often than not. Now, do we have lengthy conversations on Twitter? No, Twitter's not the place to have lengthy conversations. You know, if somebody wants to have a lengthy conversation with me on Twitter, I finally go, look, just pick up the phone, text me, Skype me, go to Facebook or something, because 140 characters is not a conversation, and to me, it's not an intimate conversation. So I'm sorry if I respect you for wanting to have a decent conversation with you. But you know, that's the big point. You know, don't be one of these little voyeur, you know, one of these little voyeur people who sits in the wings and goes, he doesn't talk to me. Why don't you open up the conversation? Why don't you put out your hand and extend it? Okay? I don't have the ability to go around to 67,000 people and go, hi, how are you today? That's what Twitter's there for. When I say good morning, or how's everyone doing this afternoon, or is it hot today, I'm talking to everybody. But you know what? I'm kind of offended 67,000 people don't answer back. So, anyway, that's the conversation I wanted to have. Don't be a little bitch, okay? Have a conversation. Go out to people, meet them. Don't sit there going, I'm watching him and I have not seen him converse, so I'm going to go and write him a nasty letter. You know, that's just so silly. It's so petty. And you know what? It's not really going to develop relationships, and it's kind of a hypocrisy. You're telling me that I'm not social. She's the most social person I almost know. Anyway, thanks for coming by the ChrisVossShow.com. I hope you learned something here today, or at least you laughed at my antics. I'll work on my Wicked Witch of the West impression further. Bye-bye.